Hello, everybody. It's your friendly neighborhood Godslayer here. How are you doing? I'm doing great. I had a little bit of pizza and feeling energetic, and I'm like, you know what? Let's show everybody what I'm doing on the DK for update 35. All right, a lot of controversy, a lot of stuff going on with update 35 in there. But from talking to a bunch of people and getting input from people like Skinny Cheeks and Eight Puppies and my friend Sound and Code Stripper and Pew Pro and Iffy and I mean all these wonderful people, streamers and just people who know a lot about things and incorporating my own knowledge and how I've been approaching my DK that I've been loving playing for the better part of this year. I've put together what I think is actually the most fun I've ever had on my DK. I know it might not be a popular thing to say, but I really enjoy it. And I think, I don't know, maybe I'm one of these people that I do enjoy a dot kind of meta of laying a lot of dots down and just going to work on a spammable. And that's pretty much what this is kind of have. It's more of a marathon, not a sprint, with at least the DK right now. Other classes I know are playing similar, but right now I've kind of focused on my DK because I've been enjoying it so very, very much. So let me show you what I've got going on. And hopefully in this video I won't leave out something in there. Did I prep a sheet and be real professional about it? No. No, I should have, but I'm like, nah, that wouldn't be my style. So let's start off with kind of the basics. First thing everybody's going to know, what gear you're running. Well, you're not going to believe it. I got rid of the kilt. I got rid of the kilt and I got rid of bosses. Oh my gosh, I never thought I would see the day. You know, I never liked depending on a mythic. This is Pale Order, and I'm running through arenas. But having the kilt and having to build up the stacks, and ever since they took the kilt and made it so that it was reduced time, it was harder to parse and also harder to go through in doing trials and such. So, and actually, I was originally with update 35 parsing with the kilt and doing pretty good with it. But then when I saw that there was an option of to not use a kilt, I'm like, I'm in. I'm in. And then as far as bosses still good and everything, but for me, I hated playing that game of how low can I get my magicka and still get everything done. That for me was not hugely fun. I didn't like to have to worry about it. And when I got this build and I figured this out and got this to work, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have to think about, am I 30% down on my magicka and, not to run out of magicka while I'm parsing or while I'm in a trial. And so, gosh, getting rid of those two things has been so wonderful. So, what I'm running now is that I'm running Zons. All right, and I'm actually using 2 light pieces. I got 2 light pieces and 5 medium for my armor stuff. I actually could probably switch this maybe to one of them being another medium, but excuse me, I don't know if I really need to. So Zons is doing absolutely fantastic for signal target in there, which puts out a flame damage and gives you some dot damage as well. So I have that for my monster. So a full monster set. I'm not doing like the slime crawling kilt, combo in there. I'm actually, doing the full monster set. And I am using Magicka and Divines. Hold on, let me take a sip of water. Of course, I knew when I would start the video, that's when my voice would go. All right, the next thing that I have is Pillar of Nirn. All right, Pillar of Nirn comes out of Falkreath. Oh my gosh, took me forever to farm it, but I love it. Pillar of Nirn is a great set. Let me swap my weapons up so you see the full thing in here. I've got Magicka, also in Divines, and so it gives me some stamina because we're really kind of a hybrid build in here. I'll explain that more thoroughly. Crit chance, weapon or spell damage. And when you deal damage, you create a fissure underneath the enemy after 1 second, dealing bleed damage to all enemies within a 2.5 meter radius, causing them to bleed for an additional 16,000 there, bleed damage over 10 seconds. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds and scales off the higher weapon or spell damage. Love it. Wonderful set. I have it on body pieces and the weapons. So the weapons I have the main hand, flame damage and Nern, the offhand, poison damage and charged. The other set that I'm using is Reliquant. All right, now since I'm on the Magicka side of things here, there's also wonderful Stam DK builds. And there, I'm on the Magicka side. I can get away with not having perfect. I can get away with not having to use perfect Reliquins, perfected Reliquins out of Cloud Rest. So you could actually go in there, go in on normal, and and start collecting gear with that. So you don't have to worry about getting the perfected stuff. And because the only thing that's different in the it's a standard crit chance, Rena's Dungeons Trials bonus of Slayer. More crit chance, and then your light and heavy attacks apply a stack of harmful winds up to your target for 5 seconds. Harmful winds deal physical damage per stack per second. This effect can occur once every half second and up to 10 times. Scales off the higher of your weapon and spell damage. The only thing that I'm missing, and I can show you here because I actually have a couple of pieces of perfected. I don't have a full perfected set, so it doesn't count towards my full 5 set. The only thing that's grayed out right there is 1,000 stamina. And that's negligible. 1,000 stamina, because we're on the Magicka side of things, we don't need that. We're all right. So don't feel like you have to go get perfected to get this to work. So, Zons, Pillar of Nirn, Reliquant. The back bar is a staff. Now I will talk about in a little bit, I do have an option in here of doing the back bar as the Maelstrom Greatsword, which is also a lot of fun. It's a kind of a different play style because I haven't wielded a Greatsword in like 6 years. I think it's been double staffs forever, and then now with the DK I've been starting to do dual wielding, which was new. And staff, and then now you'll see it a little bit. I'm also doing Greatsword on the back. It's crazy what you can do, but it's a lot of fun having all of these different options within here. So that's the gear that I'm using right now. All right. If we look at our stats in here, these stats are going to change with the food that you eat and the pots that you use and stuff. But Magicka, put everything to 64. I am using the Thief there to help out with the crit. Like I said, food's going to affect these numbers within here. The food that I am using, I'm actually using, with parsing, I'm using Ghastly Eyeball. That one still works out fantastic, and I love that I don't have to worry about if my Magicka bar is all the way up. Not like when I was using my boss eyes. Oh my gosh, that's so nice. If I'm going to use my my two-hander on the back bar, I actually switch and use a Crunchy Spider Skewer. The difference between both of those, if I want to show you, with the foods, is that the Ghastly Eyeball gives you increased Magicka and Magicka recovery. And when you're parsing, you don't really, need the health in there. I actually will switch back for most cases back to my just regular blue food, Solitude food, to give me increased max health and max Magicka. Then I have to worry a little bit about my resources. But I actually have a lot of these different foods on hand for different situations if I feel like I need different resources. So my commonplace one is the Solitude food with no recovery stuff, just kind of the basic stats of health and Magicka. I'll use the Ghastly Eyeball if I want more Magicka and I need that recovery because I'm going through Magicka real fast. If I'm going through stamina real fast, I'll then start using the the country crunchy spider score there. That's right. We're gonna be having that food there. A little crock pot cooking right there. So what the crunchy spider skewer does increases the magicka, but it gives me some stamina recovery. And you're going to see a little bit with the skills. We have a mix of stamina and magicka skills, which is what makes this a hybrid build. So yeah, the pots that I use, if I wanted to get fancy, I could use the ultimate pots in there. But for me, I can use just good old-fashioned spell power pots. They work really good. I like them because they make me feel better about filling in the gaps. We do have things that give us either major sorcery or major prophecy in there, but it's a good recovery pot. And if you happen to have a skill that's, you don't get to, quick enough, it's nice to have that up and going, so that kind of fills in the cracks within your parse. It always made me feel a little bit more secure when I was doing my parsing within that. So yeah. So that's what I'm using for the foods. So, the skills. What am I using now? Well, my front bar, which is my dual wield, I've got a standard barb trap. All right, help me out with a little bit of that crit damage. I'm using my molten whip. That's my spammable. I'm using my engulfing flames, which is now one of those sticky dots, so that it lasts like for a long time. Does less damage as you're going through, but it's like set it and forget it for a while. 24 seconds on there. Using Venomous Claw, another 24 seconds on there. And then I'm using my Flames of Oblivion in here. So here's where I was mentioning, it's like when it's slotted, I got Major Prophecy already going. So we're already getting the benefit of that spell damage. The spell crit in there. So, and then I have my Flawless Dawnbreaker, which I use, of course, for the passive. That's kind of been the thing lately in the last few updates. Having that in there allows us to utilize some of these passives within here. Increase your weapon and spell damage. You gain ultimate when you kill an enemy. Fighter's Guild abilities do 10% more damage. So I've got a little bit of extra bonus in there because I've got two. I've got the ultimate, and I'm using Barb Trap. So it really helps out on that front bar, which I'm doing a lot of spamming of my of my molten whip and my spam ball, spending a lot of time on that front bar. And so having those two up front is really helping out the old damage. So, all right, what's going on in the back bar? The back bar for my staff, I am using Scalding Rune. All right, I am using Eruption. I am using Blockade of Fire. All right. Now, if you look at these, the Scalding Rune, another long dot. All right, another sticky dot on there. But your fast AOE dots on here, which actually still take for a pretty good amount of time, 18 seconds and 15 seconds, are part of my back bar with Eruption, with Blockade of Fire. And then I have what is people consider kind of the weakest one of the dots in their Degeneration. I really like it on here because, again, it's giving me my Major Brutality and Sorcery, increasing my spell damage on there. So between having this running and this running, I've got my spell pot gives me already going. So those are the things I'm keeping up. So like I said, the pot is just to keep me, with good regeneration of my magicka, and if I happen to miss out on one of these in a rotation, or it takes me a second, extra second to get it, that I'm not losing any of that benefit in there. And then I just have Inner Light on the back bar to help out, again, with the source, the best for the sorcery and the our crit rating in there. Savagery and Prophecy. I always say them backwards. Savagery and Prophecy in there and increasing that max magicka on the back bar. And then our wonderful Standard of Might. All right, that gives us resources back and does a bunch of damage for a while. We love it. Lasts for 20 seconds. So that is my setup for that. All right, the thing I'm not going to forget about this time, I'm going to remember this time to show you my CP. Let's get the CP out. CP has changed a little bit. Our what we're using for the green and for the red can be changed up situationally. But the one that we're usually more concerned about is what are we doing for the blue? What are we doing for our warfare ones? Well, I am using now, this is a change, Wrathful Strikes. And oh my goodness, as I take a sip of water, I am so glad that Wrathful Strikes has come back in to the fold, because then I don't have to worry about Backstabber anymore. So many times when I do parsing, I have to turn the dummy around. I have to parse, with using the Backstabber. Now, some people are still using it, but for my build, I like that I don't have to use it anymore, because that means I don't have to change things up too much when I'm doing, different fights and going into trials. I like to have something that I could, have set up, set it and forget it, and not have to do, too many changes between boss fights and too many situational things. So, and a lot of times you're hitting the boss from the front and not from the back. I'm thinking, pretty much specifically, even like with Sunspire in there, you usually are not utilizing Backstabber within that. So having Wrathful Strikes there, I love it. The other one, Deadly Aim, increases your damage done with single target. Thaumaturge is on there for our dots. Love that too. And then Master Arms, increase damage done with direct damage. Love that. Take all the passives that you can. The great thing about us putting poison on our weapons and using martial weapons in here is that we're able to get a little bit of bonuses from the martial side of things, as well as putting stuff into the magical and and spell damage kind of thing. So we're very well rounded. So when people start talking about hybrid builds, there's different levels within the hybrid builds, and so we're working with that as within that as well. So that's our set of the. Oh, and that reminds me, in the skill, one of the big changes that we got in here. Look at this. This is something that I think we were the guinea pigs for in here to test this out. Molten Whip, the cost of it is now split between Magicka and Stamina. And when they first did this, I was like, oh my gosh, my stamina was going down so quick because it's a spammable. I'm like, what am I going to do? Well, this is when I started to change things up a little bit. With update 34, I was using a few more stamina skills, like a Caltrops and some other things, to utilize in my damage, to get as much damage as I could out of it. Now, with that, I've switched it up a little bit. So the only stamina that I have, I think I've got all Magicka on the back bar. The only stamina ones that I have is Barb Trap, the Whip, and Claw. That's the only thing that requires stamina now for me. So I have now found excuse me, the great balance between utilizing that. So when people are talking about, they got to switch up their builds again for update 35, especially dealing with stamina and Magicka, this is one of the things that we're talking about. All right, trying to find some good skills that will work really well, but also make it so that your resources aren't a concern. Excuse me. I knew this could happen today with that, but I wanted to get a video out to you. My voice. Come on, voice. You can do it. So that's what picking the skills that we've picked. We want to try to get the most damage and also have the most recovery, and we can make up with that with a little bit of food. That's why I have multiple food options. If I find myself in certain fights where one or the other, my Sarah Magicka is not, I'm losing too much of it as I do my rotation. All right. Speaking of rotations, all right, this rotation I love. Oh my gosh. It's such a great rotation. All right, you know what we should do? Let's go outside. This is my new house. Let's go outside and let's show you a little bit of the rotation. All right. I'll eat my food. I'll get my well out. I love that I don't have to try to buff my kilt. This is like so great. All right. So, actually, you know what? This one's going to show us a whole lot of extra stuff. I just want to show you first what the skills are going to be. All right. So I'm going to have my spell pots on. I've got everything ready to go. My rotation is going to be, first I hit my spell pot just to make sure I don't have any, any gaps in my with my skills that cover that. So click that first. I do 3 oblivions, my number 5. 1, 2, 3. I put down my trap. I switch bars. I put down my rune. And then I go light attack eruption, light attack blockade, swap, light attack engulfing, light attack claw, swap, light attack degeneration, light attack ultimate, swap to my front bar, and I start doing light attacks and whips. That's the rotation. And then what I do is that from then on, I check to make sure and see what's off of cooldown and get them going again. And with these longer dot timers, I always joke about this, I say, because I'm old. I can actually see them better. I can see them because they're longer, so I can find them and see which ones I need to keep up. So let me do this. Let me go a little bit faster, and I can tell you what I'm keeping up as I'm going along here. So, all right, get all my stuff out. I hit my spell pot. 1, 2, 3. Trap, swap, that, light attack eruption, light attack that, swap, light attack that, light attack my claw, light attack degen, light attack my thing, and then I'm going to town. Now look what's up first, my oblivion. Click my oblivion. Going back to my light attacks. Look at this. I swap my bars, my eruption's ready to go, and my blockade's going to go. I go light attack for each, I swap back to the front. Oh, my trap is done, I hit my trap bar. Now I'm going here. And look at this, I'm going now light attack for my rune, light attack for degen, and light attack for my claw. That's up. Yeah, so that's my thought process. And as I'm doing this, I'm able to, start out slow and then gain confidence by going quicker and quicker and trying to get these so that I don't have very many cooldowns. All right? I'm actually not counting whips. For me, I'm not counting whips. What I'm doing is that I just keep on doing my light attack and whips until I see something that needs an update. All right? Now, there's certain groupings of things that kind of go well together. All right? Things like the Scalding Rune, which has a 24-second, Degen's got 24-second, and Claw has 24-second. So I try to group those together, so that I don't have to do those for a little while. So if I see that they're about on cooldown, about to go on cooldown, I'll start switching to my back bar and I'll go rune. I'll go light attack rune, light attack degen, and then light attack claw. And then I'll go back to spamming and if there's anything else that I need. So it becomes this dynamic rotation. And the great thing about it is that if you're a little bit late on one, it's okay. If you're a little bit early on one, that's okay too. It's about keeping those up as best as you can as you're going through this, and you're going to get a good rotation. So let me do this. I'm not going to do a full one in here, but I just want to show you if you can kind of follow along in looking at my skills as I go, of me trying to keep up my skills as much as possible with that opening. So I'll go for maybe like 30 seconds on it. And I get to hit the target from the front. I love that now. All right. Pot. concentrating, looking at which ones are up. Oh, my pot's up too, so I'm gonna get that. These are pretty close. Let's get those back up. Oh. There we go. Yeah. So that's what I'm keeping up with. Yeah, and I'm just going through there, light attack weaving as I go, trying to keep all of those up. And when I'm humming along, this character does really, really well. One of the things I always like showing at the showing people, and I'll let you all screenshot it, is the combat metrics. The combat metrics is a really great tool when you're trying to figure out this. I actually did a video of how to read combat metrics. Go check that one out. Let's find the one. This one, I did 110 with the greatsword, but then I worked really hard to try to get close, and I got a 109. I bet I could get 110 with the staff. So the staff and the sword for me are pretty comparable in there. So full 21 mil parse, 109. My crit damage was where I wanted it to be. And here's the big information on the back page. I like this. I always tell people, you know, when I'm curious, you know, what they were running, or if somebody wants help, or I want to learn something from someone, I always say, could you send me your back page? I call this the back page. The fight stats here are your front page that show all of this information. The back page shows you the gear, what my enchants are on everything, and you know, what I'm running in there, and it shows you all the skills that I'm running in here. So on this one, I still missed a bunch of mole whips, so there was room for improvement. If I'd gotten those better, probably would have got the 110. My weaving average was very good. Anything under 1.1 is very good, and getting a little bit closer down to 0.06 is very good for me. Yeah, so this for me, and I'm not the best parser in the world. There are definitely, you know, other people much better out there than me, but I'm getting 109, 110s within that. And so to get that and having the best parsers in the world getting in the 125s, 126, 127s, not that far behind. 16K, you know, that's not that far behind. So it is very much a build that is very forgiving in a way, and I think you all will have a lot of fun with it, you know, doing this. All right, let me then show you the greatsword option. All right, with the greatsword option. All right, let's go greatsword. Boom. What I'm doing now, all right, with my cool looking sword, is that I've replaced, and this is the only thing I did, was I replaced the Maelstrom staff with the Maelstrom greatsword. Same trait and everything on it. All right, infused. Weapon spell damage, you know, for the enchant. And all you have to do then is change your skills. So the front bar skills, going to be the same. Back bar skills, instead of having Rune, which was here, instead of having Blockade, all we have is Stampede, and we've got Carve. Now, Carve is a little bit different. Oh, and if you notice, because both of these are stamina ones, I'd be using more stamina. You'll be using more stamina. So that's why I would change to the Crunchy Spider. So I changed that, and that helps a lot more, because remember, it is a Magicka, which we want, but it's a stamina recovery, which helps us out instead of the Magicka recovery. So that helps us out. I found that was the best balance within there. Still with the spell pots within that. Now, Stampede is really, really great. Good, you know, one of the openers in there, and does a nice dot on there. The one on here, Carve, again, isn't the best dot out there, but it's a long dot. You can get this done. It's what it is that it's multiple applications. You've got to keep up the applications of carve. That's kind of the important part of this. Let's read it actually first. Focus your strength in a mighty swing, dealing 6196 bleed damage to enemies in front of you, and causing them to bleed for additional 10, 8, 12 bleed damage over 12 seconds. Hitting a target that's already bleeding from this ability extends the duration by 10 seconds up to a maximum of 32. All right, so our longest dot that we've seen so far is like 24. So this goes to 32, but you've got to keep it up so you can't miss it. All right, you can't miss it when you're doing your rotations. So you want to hit this even early, if you want to make sure to do it. All right, so when you're using that, boom, you see it has like a little 1 on it. I don't know if you can see that. And then there's a timer. I get 6 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2. It's real quick. I hit it again, though. Now look at this. Now it's up into the 21. 18, 17, 16. Now it lasts for a while. Now I don't have to worry about it. I can hit my other skills and do just fine. I'm like, all right, yeah, okay, this works in there. And then I make sure to hit it one more time before it falls off. 4, 3, 2. I'll hit it again. Now I'm up to 32. And now I really don't have to worry about it for a while. Yeah. So that is actually going to be an extension of your opening rotation that's going to change a little bit. You want to make sure to hit that in time. So again, if I'm going through a rotation with the greatsword, what is going to happen now? We'll let this. That's the only thing with these long dots. when you're working on your parson, you got to wait for the dummy to get finished up there. There we go. All right. So I'm going to have the same start to my rotation, which is going to be I do my let's see. Let's make sure I got this all fit. So same start with the rotation. All right. So I'm going to have my my pot. I do my Oblivion 3 times. I put down the trap, go to the back bar. Then I use Light Attack, Stampede, Light Attack, Oblivion, Carve, Front Bar, Engulfing, Claw, that. I go to my front bar, but I'm watching it, and then right away, boom, I go and I get to my back bar. I might get in one whip before I have to go to that back bar. Yeah, so, and sometimes people won't chance it. What they'll do is that they'll put down their ultimate and then go hit the carve right away. So it's up to you. It's up to how you can see that and get that done. I'm able to get 1 or 2 sometimes. Dots could be on there forever. Oh, no, it didn't. Okay, cool. All right. Let me do it on the big guy here, and you can see how that all works out and see me concentrating on getting to those 3 stacks and keeping that up. So this, 1, 2, trap, stampede, eruption, car, then do 1, 2, or you can get that boom, car, boom. And now I'm keeping things up. And I'm watching that. That one's the thing that I'm watching like a hawk. Let's do it. Boom. Now I'm on my 3 stacks. I don't have to worry about for a while now. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. And you see with this one, I was more in that like 107, 108, for a little bit. And, I'm slightly distracted because I'm talking to you all about it and everything. And actually, I did start a little bit low on the so that helped in there. But this one did give me a little bit more of a little bit more power with it. So if I go to my, let's get out my good parse there. I was able to get 110 a couple of times. I was able to repeat it, which is always kind of a big thing. Sometimes you'll get lucky on a parse, which is fantastic. But then to be able to repeat it, that's really a parse, that's really what you're getting on there, works out really good. So the 110 with that, if we go to our info bar, you can see what I'm using. I'm using that perfected weapon on there, and you can see my skills. I'll keep this up for a second here while I chit-chat, just so if you want to, copy that, copy and paste it. It's a great setup in there. Really like it. So there we go. The other things that I have in just the basic options factor, the only thing I change with both of them, with the greatsword and the staff, when I go and do certain dungeons when I need, like, the bosses, single target type stuff, all I do is throw a heal on the back. So the only change to my, here's my staff one, instead of having inner light, I throw on coagulating blood just to have a health if I need it. You could also put a shield here if you wanted to. So it depends on how your healers are or the situation in there. I'll have this, if I'm doing Dreadsail Reef and I have to go downstairs and do the hearts there, do the battling the crab in the stumps there. I'll have that on there just to make sure that I get, that I'll be all set, with health so that I won't die down there, and still have all my damage in there. So a little change with that. The other thing, I do the same thing with a greatsword. So if you see, it's just staff with a heal, staff with a parse. The only difference is inner light. Greatsword with a heal, and greatsword with a parse. The only different thing is, the inner light and coagulated blood. I do have one for, if I've got trash. I do have a slightly different setup for the trash build with my staff. I'll put this on, and for me, I actually do end up using, I take out the trap, because that's always, if you've got a whole mob of people, it's a little bit tricky. I'll throw on burning talons in there to do that AoE damage in there. I'll throw on anti-cavalry there to give us a little bit of that lasting damage, on there, some more dots and stuff. And I switch my degen to my Mystic Orb. So just some slight changes. And I think armor-wise, the only thing I change is that I use Grothdars. Grothdar, great AoE damage setup, great for trash. And if you're not sure what we say when we relate to the trash mobs, it's the it's just when you have those groups of mobs in trials and dungeons when you're not doing a single target thing on a boss in there, and so you want to do a lot of AoE damage to a lot of groups. So and I don't change any of my CP or anything like that. Just those skills and the Grothdar. So yeah. Now, there's so many wonderful options out there with different gear that you could run. So if you're thinking, hey, Maddie, could I use a Sororia instead of a Reliquin? Because I've got it. I'm just like, well, awesome, because I don't have it. I don't have a full set of that still yet. So yeah, if you've got it, use it. If you like your Kinraz, still from before, I was using Kinraz before this, with Kinraz with the Bosse. If you like that, go with that. There's a lot of different options within there. Again, if you still like running the kilt, there is that option in there. Throw the kilt on there, and swap out, have a slime craw and put a shoulder of whatever you swapped out, and utilize that. I was doing kilt with a split daggers. That's also a thing of using a pillar on one and Reliquin on the other, and going that route. There's so many different things. You could go the stamina side of this. One of my friends, 8 Puppies, has a great stamina decay setup that he does really well with. And I think he had like 127 or 128 damage in there, and was just amazing. With that, or my 125. Some of the highest parsers. That's kind of where they're at right now. Is in that 125 to 128 range right now. So this one for me getting it in the 110s, I'm elated. So it's wonderful. But there's a lot of different options of gear that you could use, and I've heard people say that maybe 1,000 to 1,500 damage difference, which is almost like getting a few good extra light attacks in there in a rotation. So they're not really far off from each other. So use what you like, use what you're able to acquire in there, and you're going to be pretty set. Even utilizing some of the beginner set builds. Gosh, if you do like a Zons and you throw on an Order's Wrath, which is a craftable, and put on Mother's Sorrow, you'd still be doing really well right now. So there's a lot of different options that you can have within the build. And I think that's what excites me with it. So a lot of options within it, a little bit easier to see the dots and to get yourself into a dynamic rotation instead of a static rotation, which I was very much a static rotation person for a very, very long time because I just couldn't see it. The dots would come off cooldown after 4 or 5 seconds, and it was really tough for me. Which, again, a lot of people, there's where the controversy is because quick dots means very hard hitting dots, and so you can do a lot of damage very quickly. For something with this with sustained damage over a period of time, for like a big boss in a trial in here or parsing, it really helps out. So I think people that weren't excited about parsing or weren't excited about doing some trial stuff, hopefully this might get them into wanting to do this and seeing that hey, I can get some big deeps out of this as well, and get into some of that content. So but we'll see how all that works out with everybody. But I hope this all helps. I hope I didn't forget anything this time. I'm thinking about all the stuff. When I started rambling here towards the end, I'm thinking, is there anything I really forgot? Is there anything? I'm pointing at the screen. I'm a Khajiit. You could use, I like the Khajiit for the versatility of either going stamina or magicka. You could use Dark Elf. You could use, you have a lot of different options, whether you're stam focus or mag focus or whatever you want to do with that. Like I said, I like the the racial passive for Khajiit because they've got things that are kind of well-rounded, so you could go either way. So if I wanted to put more stam stuff, I could. I don't have to think about changing my my race with it. And crit damage is crit damage. So, it's always going to be there, whether it's a focused crit damage where we're now kind of coming out of it where we're kind of focused a little bit more on spell power or weapon power stuff, weapon damage stuff, more than the crit damage in there. But because Khajiit have an increase to 12% of their crit damage, that means that I can run something else instead of running a certain skill or having a certain piece of armor, because I'm trying to hit that crit cap. I might have too much because I'm using a Khajiit, or you might have too much. So you've got options, within there. So, all right. So anyway, I hope you can tell I'm super excited about this build. I've really been loving it. I've been working on this. I've got a few different setups that I've been looking at. This is my, my Parson Trial Dungeon, build setup. I'm looking at making another video coming up soon that is my PvP setup. I was working with my friend Zuna to try to figure out what's a good PvP setup, either using the Greatsword or using the staff, what we could do there. An arena build setup I did my things backward. The arena build setup was with my friend Zuna. figuring that out. And I've been working on a PvP build setup, and I've been asking some advice from my friend Pain the Axe, because I've been using his incinerator build and loving it. So seeing what kind of tweaks need to be made with that. So I'll probably be coming out with videos a little bit later on, talking about the PvP setup and talking about the arena build setup, which are quite different than what I'm using for my PvE setup in there. So yeah, so we'll see those in the future. So thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you get a lot of it. And remember, subscribe. Subscribe is free for YouTube. Hit the bell, hit the like button, leave a comment, ask a question, do the things. We're getting so close to 1,000 subs on YouTube. If you don't know, if you hit 1,000 subs, that's when you can start looking at monetization on YouTube. And so, there's a lot of viewing hours still to come for my videos on that, but it'd be nice to get over 1,000 and get up there. So if it's interests you at all, or tell your friends, or tell your enemies, or tell anybody, tell your folks, tell whatever, and help me get up to 1,000. I would really appreciate it. So we're doing really good with that. So thank you, everybody, for your time. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.